So you've stormed out of Zwemmer's, right?
Yeah, delicately. Yeah.
So, and then Aaron, come out onto the street. What, did you turn left into the bar, or where do you go? What happens from there? Where do you go from
I
there?
would definitely have drank. Yeah, I was drunk most of the time. Um, then can't remember what order it went in. I think the first thing was I got invited to be a founding curator of Bloomberg Space, where Bloomberg, the news company, financial company in Finsbury Square in the city, they had this Norman Foster building, and then they moved the foyer, so they had this old foyer that they wanted to make into a space for contemporary art. And they were amazing. They said, we don't care what you do, we don't care if we understand it. All we care about is that Reuters don't understand it. And that's how
That was your brief.
yeah. And we really tested it. We did. There was four of us. There was me, who was a dealer-ish. There was Graham Gussin, who's a great artist. There was Sasha Craddock, who's a writer and curator. And there was Stephen Hepworth, who's a curator. Um, so the four of us would just, we were told that we didn't have to do anything organizationally or logistically or with PR or anything. All we had to do was come up with ideas for exhibition.
As a group or as
Yeah,
individuals?
always as a group.
As a team, right?
Yeah, it was incredible because we didn't agree on anything.
Right. I was going to say.
So we'd just have these amazing, like, battles. And we all loved it. It was like really, really rigorous and
So how would
we
you
went
arrive
into
at
an idea.
how would
Yeah,
you arrive at a project then? How would you actually get around to agreeing on something?
that's why the shows were so weird, I think.
Yeah.
Because we just talk and talk and talk. And if you wanted to do something, you had to be so ready to defend it and fight for it and have all your arguments in place. So we made some quite odd exhibitions, but they were, I don't think we would have got away with them anywhere else. And we could act really quickly that all other, it was quite a unique position because it wasn't commercial. We had a really good budget to make exhibitions with. We had staff who organised everything. And we didn't have any of the restrictions of a public institution. So it was, yeah, it was, we had a lot of freedom intellectually. We did a show that was based on almost like biting the hand that feeds you or looking a gift horse in the mouth. It was like, what can we do to kind of question the host institution? So we did things where, you know, the people who were working in Bloomberg would be typing, and what they were typing would be sent out as smoke signals that could be interpreted. And then an artist covered a wall in a kind of algae that turned into mold. There was all stuff that kind of attacked the institution or questioned the institution that they were totally up for. It was incredible.
Well, a rare opportunity. It sounds incredible. You said there are other things going on at the same time, so you're not just doing this. Is this when you established the
Yeah,
bar?
that was technically that was 1 day a week, which paid more than I was getting full time at Zwemmer in the bookshop. So then that's the way it was. Then that gave me the opportunity to start my own gallery because my wages were covered by that job. So then I got a space on Laburnum Street on the canal in just off Kingston Road. so Dalston, Hackney. I had a space there that I shared with the drawing room, where we share the office all the time and then take it in turns to make exhibition. And that was great. Just being in the studio with, it was a studio building, so downstairs there was David Austin, and next door was A.K. Dolan, Clem Crosby. There's just really good artists around. And kind of going into a community, and then also being with the drawing room, who were, from curators from public institutions, from the Tate and Contemporary Art Society. So we were doing completely different projects, but in the same space at the same time. So it was, I think I was just learning.
That's an incredible kind of setup, isn't it? So in your gallery, you've got a kind of a parallel program.
Yeah.
With the drawing, doing something completely different. And then one day a week, you're at Bloomberg and you're in this kind of, with all these other kind of like very high powered individuals. So how did that affect your sort of mindset? Were they inside your head when you were running your own program, or were you able to sort of distinguish what you were doing from what you were doing at Bloomberg and from what like the drawing room were doing kind of parallel to your program? Do you remember?
I didn't have any kind of overview of it or strategy at all. There was no, I think there was definitely a period of accelerated learning. It was, and just being in London then anyway, going to shows every night, going to talks, going to openings, being in the bookshop. It was, coming from the Midlands and then living in Bath, just go straight into that kind of late 90s, early 2000s London art world. It's just stuff coming at you all the time. I couldn't say how it separated out or if that specifically influenced me.
Yeah.
It's just constant from every direction.
You're in the epicenter there. And when you established this gallery, do you have a team or assistants or interns? Are you doing everything yourself?
Everything by myself. Yeah. And then there's an amazing woman called Amber 2. You know her?
Sure.
Swiss, French Swiss art advisor, collector. She used to have a gallery. She did two amazing things. She came in once and she said, I think she'd bought something and I'd completely messed up every aspect that I could mess up, the sale, delivery, invoicing, everything. And then she came in and said, David, you are a genius, but you are a fucking idiot. I was like, okay, that sounds fair. And she went, show me your account. I pulled a cardboard box out from under my desk that had all the ins and all the outs, and some cash, and invoices, receipts, like everything, bank statements, everything was just in one box. And then she said, I'm going to send Poppy to you. And she sent Poppy, who'd worked at Flowers and some other place. And I thought I'd better interview some other people. I can't just be told who I'm going to employ. Then I interviewed Poppy and she got the job. And I basically never touched any paperwork again.
This is Poppy Severe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she was amazing. She became director for about 8 years, I think. She was fantastic. But then years later, I said to her, we were at an art fair somewhere, and I said, didn't you study art? Just like, no, I studied Spanish. It's like, didn't I ask you this at your interview? Like, no, you didn't ask me anything. I still have no idea what I'm doing. So very, very basic.
So you conducted an interview without actually asking any questions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have no idea what I would have asked her. Like, if you know how to do bank stuff, maybe. Can you sort me out? Something like that.
Are you
So,
not
yeah.
establishing Zoo Art Fair at the same time as well?
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know if everyone here knows it or went to it, but that was a phenomenon. I mean, that in a way it sort of it was the landmark of and the precursors of the great satellite fairs. Was it during the first Freeze Art Fair that you did this?
No, it's the second freeze. So freeze happened for the first time, and then I was commissioned by the Business Design Centre to do research into making another fair, like a younger fair maybe. So I got Soraya Rodriguez to help me work on that. We came up with a proposal, which was a fair of young galleries, artist-run spaces, non-commercial spaces, curatorial projects that were in the East End and South London, all London-based. But we said to the people who commissioned this research that it would have to be non-profit to get the quality of galleries to make any impact or to make it worthwhile. They couldn't afford to do a commercial fair. And if you made it big enough to be a commercial fair, the quality would drop off and it'd just be totally uninteresting. Well, it wouldn't be any different to the London Art Fair they were doing already. So they basically said, thank you very much for your research. We're not interested. We want a profit-making fair. So we went off and looked into it more. Thought it could work. Didn't know where to do it, so we went and sat where Freeze was in Regent's Park in the town. But another time of year, just sat there, smoked some weed and looked around and were like, where could host a fair here? And then Soraya said, the zoo. So we went to the zoo and rang on the front door bell and said, do you have any spaces we could rent in, was it October? And they had the kind of banqueting hall that they use for weddings. And then we rented the reptile house for the performance program. And a little glass building that overlooked the bears and the monkeys. There's a few booths in there. It was amazing. But the main thing with that is we wanted to keep it as cheap as possible for the galleries. We thought basically that if we get, there's all these amazing spaces around the East End and South London. They're London-based collectors like Saatchi and Anita Zabradowicz were finding them. They were really good programs, but all the international people that are coming over for Freeze wouldn't have time to schlep around the whole of the East End and South London looking for tiny project spaces in the back of garages or whatever. So we thought if we put them all under one roof, not only will those collectors and whatever come, but curators and the other dealers who are showing at Freeze from New York or from Berlin will come and see it. So then we asked to keep the price down. We knew we had to raise as much money as we could that wasn't from the galleries. So then we asked, the galleries were going to pay £2,500 each, which is already quite a lot. But then we asked Saatchi, Gagosian, Lisson, Maureen Paley, Sadie Coles, Victoria Miro, White Cube, all of them basically to sponsor £2,500 each. which would match a gallery's payment, and we'd give them first access to the opening and some other goodies. And they all said yes, which was incredible.
All of them. That's amazing.
Yeah, they all said yes. It was like the generosity of spirit was really amazing, except for Anita Zabazovic, who called me and said, we can't give you £2,500, we're going to give you £30,000. And an office in central London and a PR company and an accountant and just access to our network and support. And they...
Just because out of belief, just because...
Yeah, just mental.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Incredible. They didn't want a part, they didn't want shares, it was philanthropic or...
No, it was all non-profit, totally non-profit.
That's incredible.
So that allowed us to do it. So the first year was just London-based. So it was places like Rockwell and Store and I think Herald Street maybe. No, they got straight into Breeze, I think. A lot of those young London galleries at the time. Then the second year was UK, so there's like Workplace from Newcastle and different places like that. Then we went on a research trip. That was amazing. We got money from the Arts Council, and Soraya kept saying it was our holiday. So we went to New York, Caracas, Sao Paulo, Rio, Buenos Aires, back to New York and then home. And just spent our whole time in like back alleys of South American cities, finding artist run spaces and inviting them to come to London. It was magical.
Incredible. Over how long? Over what period? How long was that?
10 days.
That's a hell of an agenda.
It was madness. And we were on it. We were off it. We were on it. And every time I got on a plane to try and sleep, Soraya would be like, laptop, Excel sheet. She was fantastic. Still fantastic.
David, I think that is a perfect place to leave this evening's talk, and because
I haven't even opened my gallery.
We're going to have.
Oh, no, I know. Yeah, we're still in London.
We're going to have our first ever cliffhanger, because these talks have only taken place over one session previously, and it's 8 o'clock.
Is that
yeah,
so
it is. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think we're going to do at least 2 or possibly 3. Let's see what happens on part 2.
I mean, our target was to leave London, wasn't it?
There's no better place than leaving it when you're on it and off it in Buenos Aires.
Yeah.
So I think we should have a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back for Q&A. We've got a number of guests here. So if I can ask you all to write questions into the chat.
Well, just your names is fine.
Matthew and I will call you out, and you can ask the questions. There's a lot to dig into. So
I go and get a glass of water.
Yeah. With 5 minutes.
Yeah. We'll come back in 5 minutes, David.
Thank you.
6 minutes past 8 then.
6 minutes past 8.
All right. See you all then, everyone.